This is Woburn Abbey in Bedfordshire, which started off life like so many other great estates, as being monastic property, until after the dissolution of the monasteries, where in 1547 the estate was granted to Sir John Russell, later 1st Earl of Bedford. Woburn wasn't really occupied until the 4th Earl rebuilt it and made it into the family's principal seat. Here we're looking at the Cedar of Lebanon tree. The 5th Earl, during the Civil War, fought on the side of Parliament, before switching to the Royalist cause and then back to the parliamentarian side. He found office under Charles II at the Restoration and even became Knight of the Garter in 1672. However, 7 years later, his son William was executed for treason for his part in the Rye House plot. The plot was to assassinate Charles II and his brother James. The Earl's nephew, Edward, was one of the 7 people involved in inviting William the Prince of Orange to England to depose the Catholic King James II. These 7 men later became known as the Immortal Seven. With the Glorious Revolution of 1688 and the Prince of Orange becoming William III, the 5th Earl was raised to the rank of Duke. This was perhaps done in part as a form of compensation for his son's execution. The 4th and 5th Dukes made alterations to the house and some of the buildings on the estate. The 6th Duke, however, employed Humphrey Repton to landscape the park. During the First World War, Woburn had a military hospital at it, and during the Second World War it was used as billets for the Wrens who was working at Bletchley Park. The house was in a bad way after the war, with large amounts of dry rot, so in 1949 to 1950 the east wing, the indoor running school and tennis court was demolished. When the 13th Duke inherited the title, he was faced with large amounts of death duties, so he opened the house to the public in 1955, and this was followed 15 years later by the Safari Park. Today, Woburn is the home of the 15th Duke. At the end of this season, the house is shutting to the public for at least 18 months to 2 years, where it's going under a major refurbishment. The house is full of art and treasures. There's a room that's full of canaletos, which is the most you'll see in one room. And there's also one of the 3 surviving copies of the Elizabeth I Armada portrait. So it's well worth a visit. As you can see, the gardens are amazing as well. About 7 miles from Woburn is Houghton House. The estate was granted to Mary Herbert, the Dowager Countess of Pembroke, by James I. The house was likely built by John Thorpe and Inigo Jones. After the Countess had died, James I granted the estate to Thomas Bruce, 1st Earl of Elgin, but when the 3rd Earl went into exile over his loyalty to James II, the estate was sold to the 4th Duke of Bedford. He let his son and heir live at Houghton until he died in a hunting accident. The 5th Duke ordered the house to be dismantled, and today it's in the care of English Heritage.